Welcome to my world. Come on in and make yourselves at home. Welcome to my life. I know everything's gonna be all right. Welcome to my world. Oh, won't you come on in? Welcome to my life. It's known as the Tiger's Den. Greetings to all of my subscribers. I want to thank you for being with me for as long as you have, and the new subscribers that's coming on in. We want to say greetings and thank you for your time. This is from Toothless and the moderators. Welcome to the Tiger's Den. Greetings. This is the voice of Cheryl, and this is my humble opinion. I've been covering several stories in Fulton County, and I'm sure if we look in our own county, we could find some issues. I know I can in Dallas County. But right now the focus is on Fulton County. In my opinion, what's going on there is a modern day lynching. I don't know if y'all recall any of the old pictures that came from the times when those things were taking place in our history, and families would come out and gather, and they'd have cameras, and everybody would be excited. Everybody would be there watching, having a good time. It's unfortunate, but that's a part of our history. I see a lot of good stories on YouTube, and a lot of them are true stories based in reality. But it doesn't seem to move the people. And I wonder why. Because there are many of us that have family members, friends that are affected by the system of injustice. It's kind of like the thing that you talk about, but you don't really talk about. That's what I find. Be that as it may, I'm here to talk about it. Oftentimes, I talk about it alone, but yet I talk about it. I read about it. I write about it. This story is an interesting story to me as I was doing research, trying to figure out what did I want to talk about. Because we all know what's happening in the Young Thug trial. It is unfortunate how it is going, but it is actually giving us a beautiful picture of what the system really is like. And if you get caught up in that system, and you don't have to do anything to get caught up in the system. I think that's something that people tend to believe, that everybody that's in the system has done something wrong. That's not true. I look at Eban Films, and this young man name is posted, and he did a paperwork party, and I'm going to put that in his link inside of my description. I didn't really put a lot in the description today because I was really trying to decide if I even wanted to go live or not. I see a lot of people telling these stories, and boy, they get many, many views, and I just don't understand how so few come and hear truth. Same truth. But I cannot sugar-coated or make it funny, because for me it's not funny. And so perhaps that's why people don't want to hear it. And that's fine. It will be available for one day when you don't want to laugh and you want to look at reality because you're faced with the situation and you want to know how it happened, why it happened, and possibly how you can get out of it. Then that's why I'm here. So I keep coming back. Sometimes when I don't even feel like it, I come back because I do know that we are a people who are infatuated with entertainment and not reality, although we live the pains of reality every day. It's very sad, but it is our reality. I came across this story while I was researching to see what I wanted to talk about. As I stated, Posted, who does Ebon Films, he did a paperwork party, and he did a case that I found the case, but I didn't get all the paperwork on the case. And the case is Thorpe v. Glanville, and it's David Thorpe. And this young man was accused of a crime by written complaint. And from there, the police detective, Dumas, decided that he was going to make this young man guilty and try him, convict him himself. Well, he went through all of what you go through to bring about charges, indict him, and as the story goes, they gave him like 21 days in jail, and then they put him on a monitor. And that started the beginning of his nightmare. And it lasted for several years. And throughout his case, there were about 4 DAs put on that case. And one of them happened to be Fonnie Willis. And she was not the DA. She was not even she was the deputy DA. That was her title. So she could be considered the chief deputy DA. I don't know what their titles are, but she was the deputy DA. And Judge Glanville, the man that everybody see as so honorable, was the man that heard the case. And it's so very sad because it comes to be that there was exculpatory evidence that this man did not do what he was accused of doing. But instead, the judge put on that blindfold of justice and allowed them to commence to try to incarcerate this man. During this time period when he was sentenced to homebound monitoring, his father became ill. And unfortunately, he lost his father. He was the power of attorney for his father and his mother. And his mother was ill as well. And then his child's mother became extremely ill. And he had to endure all of this at home on a monitor, not guilty, with information that could free him. Yet they refused to work the case. He had several attorneys appointed to him. And then his case was put on what they called the dead docket. And once they put him on that docket, what that does is just take you out the system. So, you don't have to do anything to the case because you're just somewhere in the black hole. And he found it out, and so he petitioned the court to put it back in circulation. And he had tried to represent himself pro se. And he was never allowed, but once he got it back on the docket, then he was allowed to represent himself pro se. What Judge Glanville did is what he refused to do now in Young Thug case. He realized that he had been caught red-handed, so he recused himself from the case. And you know, it's amazing how these people can destroy your life, yet recuse themselves and go on to get all of these accolades and everybody talking about how great they are and their service to this country. I don't know if that's great service or not. I think people really need to start researching, and you know, I know that you're not interested and I can't make you. But all I can do is continue to sound the alarm. Everybody's talking about what Trump's going to do, what Biden's going to do, and we don't even have a concept of what's really going on. We're all in the wrong ballpark. And I would advise you to start researching jurisdiction, very important, nationality, constitution. These things I will continue to say, whether you do them or not, is your choice. But it's some sad stuff going on all over the globe, mainly in this place we call America. We have no concept. The majority of us, not all, I never say all, we have no concept on the political aspect and how it actually governs and rules our lives. We have no concept of the people that are in places that make decisions over us every day. Yet we say we're free. Free from what? We don't even feel comfortable talking to or being honest with each other about the little things, not anything real important. We don't even have common courtesy anymore. It's kind of gone out the window. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. This young man's story was so sad, and I found this story on X, formerly known as Twitter, because I recently got on X, and they have some great articles out there. And I want to give credit to the young man who put this article out there. I've got to give him the credit. His name is Anthony Michael, and I say Chris. I don't know how he pronounces it. Kreis. But his post reads, in March 2001, a Georgia man was convicted of felony murder at 17. He filed a timely motion for a new trial 3 weeks later. 22 years have passed. The court never ruled. He was basically forgotten. That may not mean nothing to nobody if you're not in that position, but you know, but for the grace, it could be you or someone you love, because we never know. Again, like I just said about the young man a moment ago, Mr. Thorpe, he done nothing wrong, yet he was accused. He only spent 21 days in jail. And I say only, but for him, that's a lifetime. Because he spent several years locked in his home to a monitor that gave him rashes and broke out his feet and ankle and kept it swollen. He had some serious problems. And like I said, I'm going to put that link if you want to go. And that young man posted, he's excellent to me. one of the best that do this on this YouTube as far as breaking down these stories. And it's because he too has street smarts. He has intellectual smarts, analytical, critical thinking. He has a musical background. He's has a beautiful voice. Could be an excellent book reader like my cousin. I mean, he's just good all around. And the way he break it down, a baby could really comprehend what he's saying. It's awesome to hear him break down his story and the way he's called the Young Thug case. But Mr. Thorpe's case is almost exactly like what's happening in Young Thug's case, the way they're putting things together, the way they're lying, the way that they're doing, although they didn't intimidate witnesses and stuff, but they tried to intimidate him, Mr. Thorpe. And he just wasn't having it. He just was not going to have it. Yeah, but he's lost in the system. And greetings, Phyllis and Regina and whoever joined us. And would you guys please hit the like button. One thing I know, and I've heard a lot of people say, and even seeing all these people grow exponentially, is that hitting the like button and communicating and commenting is really what helps us get our video out. I don't know sometimes what get my video out. Sometimes I get a video and it gets several hits, and sometimes I get it and it gets hardly any. So I don't know what happens, but I would just continue to ask that you hit the like button, share it to somebody. I say 3 people, but share it to anybody if you would, or tell them about it, and make a comment. And I appreciate you guys coming in the chat, because it shows engagement, and that's really what it's all about, engagement, although YouTube is making a whole lot of money. I just want to get the word out. So by any means necessary, if we can just get the word out. So here we go. Let's talk about this story. It saddens me. What happened to this young man? But it happened. And I guess I can say that it's happening. His case was neglected for over 20 years. Judge calls it a procedural tragedy, as incarcerated man's letter shows court system didn't follow up on trial review. Now here this is filed, you can see May 2nd, 2021 in Superior Court, Fulton County. Comes now defendant Leslie Singleton and files this amended motion for new trial and requests for evidentiary hearing, and moves this court to set aside and what they were asking the judgment and vacate the verdict, judgment, and sentence entered by the trial courts against defendant. And he hand wrote this. I am Leslie Singleton, and I'm writing to request my motion for a new trial be heard that has been delayed for 22 years. He's never given up on himself, and that's one of the things that we have to learn. In order to really win in this race, we can never give up on ourselves. No matter who comes with us or who don't, just don't give up on yourself. And this illustration depicts the decades-long legal saga involving Leslie Singleton, who was found guilty in the unaliving of police officer in 2001, but was never granted the chance to appeal his conviction. Illustration by Arthur Lee at the AJC, and that's the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. So the article is by Ali Gross. And here we go. When Fulton County Superior Court Judge Robert McBurney first read Leslie Singleton's letter last year, he assumed there was a mistake. The letter was straightforward and to the point. Singleton, an inmate at Coffee Correctional Facility, wanted to know what was holding up his motion for a new trial. What was stunning was how long he had been waiting, more than 20 years. And Judge McBurney seems to be one of the fairer ones that I've heard of. He seems to be integral, and he seems to have a workload that is workable. There was a study done on the workloads of the judges, and I did this in one of my past interviews, and they showed that a lot of those judges just do not do the work, with Chief Justice Glanville having the smallest caseload of about 26 cases. And we know that people are sitting in Fulton County Jail alone, unindicted for years, and never going before a judge for years. And L.A. Pink, that's what her organization does. They help people get at least the due process of the procedural matters once they become aware of them. So here we go. Quote, I just know that this is beyond delay, to the point of negligence or remiss. Quote, Single wrote in July, explaining that he had been a juvenile when his case began. For the judge who was sent the letter as part of Fulton County Superior Court's review process for new filings in cases over 10 years old, the letter was, quote unquote, boggling. Quote, like, there is no way this is a case from the 2000s, unquote, he told the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, explaining that a motion for a new trial must be filed within 30 days of a defendant's initial sentencing. And while a decision can sometimes take a few years, especially if court transcripts come in late, they shouldn't take 2 decades. But when the judge tracked down the old case file, what he found was just as Singleton had described: a March 2001 conviction and an appropriately filed motion for a new trial 3 weeks later. Then, 22 years has passed with no hearing or decision. And I want y'all to know, whenever you miss a deadline, it is over. It's over. If you are dealing with the system, and if you're doing it pro se, one of the things that is required of you is that you know the law, just like the people that are representing the opposite side. So they don't mind you representing yourself. You can't represent anybody else without a license, but they don't mind you representing yourself. But you must know the law. And in knowing the law, there are time limits for motions, pleadings to be filed. And if you miss any one of them, your case is over at that point. Unless there is an exception and another way that can get it back into the courts, you can consider it done. But this man met his timeline to no avail. Singleton, who at 17 was convicted of felony unaliving for his participation in a carjacking gone awry and sentenced to life with parole, had slipped through the cracks of the court system. In Georgia, defendants are offered the opportunity for a second review of their case in the form of a motion for a new trial and/or an appeal, if a motion for a new trial is filed. However, a defendant cannot move to the appellate phase until a judge makes a ruling. Singleton has been stuck in legal purgatory. Complicating the case is the fact that Singleton was sentenced in 2001 as one of the first cohorts of kids in the state to be tried as adults under Senate Bill 440, a 1994 law designed to provide harsh punishment to juveniles who commit violent crimes. In other words, Singleton got lost in an adult system despite being a child who was dependent on the state for navigation. Quote, "It's a procedural tragedy," unquote, McBurney said, emphasizing that he couldn't comment on the specifics of the case, just the process that failed Singleton, who is now 40. Quote, "Thank goodness this man wrote this letter," unquote, the judge said. And to be honest, I believe the judge is telling the truth, because from reading this article, he has done what should have been done and is trying to do what needs to be done. So I truly believe that he is one that believes in the oath of office and to uphold the Constitution, in which they all say that they're going to do when running for office, when being appointed, and when sitting in the positions of power. Pinpointing what went wrong is a challenge. It appears to be a series of common errors, highlighting the fallibility of the criminal justice system, which is made up of people who can make mistakes. In December, disturbed by the finding and eager to address Singleton's motion, McBurney asked a local appellate attorney to take on the case. It was so old that the state's current indigent defense program, Georgia Public Defender Council, didn't exist when the case began. Because of that, the county will foot the bill. A hearing is scheduled for Monday. And these are the things that the county should be footing, not elected officials' love trysts or stalking or things of that nature. These are the very things that they're supposed to be getting all of those $1 million in grants. This is what they're supposed to be for. The people. The surfacing of Singleton's case 2 decades later, thanks to his initiative and consistent letter writing, is a shock to the system. It also places the spotlight on a less discussed but critical part of the trial process, post-conviction reviews. And I don't know if you all recall, but I showed the spending that the DA used in post-convictions. And out of all of those millions that she received from ORCA and the other grants that she received money from, very little was spent in post-conviction reviews. These steps provide a check and balance on the criminal justice system, according to Cassandra Robertson, a law professor at Case Western Reserve University, who specializes in professional ethics and procedural law. When there is a breakdown, it can call into question the fairness of the entire court system, she said. And although the world is watching this play that's acting out before our eyes, it is little people such as myself that keep finding these stories that people are posting and trying to sound it in our community. And that's what my goal is. Our community. And our community is people that don't frequent social media. I'm not a social media person and don't know half the things that I'm doing on social media. But what I seek is information so that I can bring to the masses in hopes that it will spark something inside of you to want to start investigating and seeing just how things work and quit taking people's word for how they say things go. That is my hope. It's not justice, Robertson said, quote unquote. Quote, if an essential issue in a case just isn't getting decided, unquote. While a delay of this magnitude would be problematic on its own, a review of the 2001 trial raises a host of questions about Singleton's original defense. Specifically, the AJC found that Singleton's trial attorney was repeatedly flagged by the state Supreme Court for failures in representing indigent defendants. But nothing was done. The record, which leaves open a possibility of ineffective counsel for Singleton, underscores why a post-conviction review is important. It's a reality that leaves Singleton and his current attorney, and I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm going to say attorney David H., to contend with two questions. The most obvious, how did this happen? And the more pressing, is it even possible to undo such a wrong? Now that's a real pressing question. A cop unalived, a teen convicted. Stitching together any case 20 years later is a challenge, but Singleton's is particularly messy, confusing, and tragic. According to court transcripts and a psychological exam completed by Singleton this spring in the summer of 2000, the then 16-year-old had just finished 10th grade at North Clayton High School and was on summer break when he and two friends decided to rob a drug dealer to get money. In the 2024 psych eval, Singleton said the intention was to get money to bail out his mom. Now, did y'all hear that? Singleton said the intention was to get money to bail out his mom, who had recently been arrested for driving under the influence and obstructing an officer. Could you imagine the relationship between a mom and a son, maid, son, mother, son, and the thing that a child is willing to do for his mother? Not that she asked him to do it, but that's his mother. And that's all he knew. So he felt at 16 years old, he had to do something to get his mother back home. And that was the choice that he made. On July 1st, 2000, the trio, Singleton, Michael Waters, and David Brandon Mraz, set out with Michael Myers' Halloween mask, gloves, and a gun. As they walked to their destination, they decided to try stealing a car. Sometime after midnight on the morning of July 2nd, they saw a couple fighting in a BMW parked in a driveway in College Park. Now, the couple was fighting, and they saw an opportunity. Waters, with the gun, approached the car. He got the couple, Melvin Grigley and Debbie Blaylock, out of the car and told Singleton to get into the driver's seat, which Singleton did. What the boys didn't know, according to a 2000 AJC article, was that Grigley was an off-duty Atlanta Police Department sergeant. Grigley, according to the trial transcript, took out a gun and began shooting. Waters shot back as Singleton, who was shot twice in the left arm, scrambled out of the car and ran. Waters' shot was fatal. He later told police the teens didn't know Grigley had passed until they saw it on the news the next day. The case was heartbreaking. Grigley a 26-year veteran of APD and a father of 4, died unalived at age 51. Waters took a plea deal that November. Singleton's case went on trial on March 13, 2001. He turned 17 the day before. At the trial, which was presided over by Judge Doris Downs, the state argued that while Waters pulled the trigger, Singleton planned mask and gloves. Gary Gertrude, an assigned public defender, represented Singleton. He made the argument that there was no concerted effort to unalive someone that night, and that what happened fell on Waters, who pulled the trigger. Despite Singleton being the youngest defendant, Waters and Merez were both 17 at the time of the crime, and not being the shooter, he received the most severe sentence, as his co-defendants were given plea deals to testify against him. And remember what I have said over and over and over. And if you go and listen to posted in that paperwork party, you will hear that the desired goal of most DAs in the land is to take away your Sixth Amendment right to trial of a jury of your peers and get you to plea, which is also the subject of the trial penalty that we've been talking about before I start intensively covering the Young Thug case. Basically, all they want us to do is plea. Guilt or innocent, they don't care. Just plea. We need a conviction. And if you plead, that's a conviction, even though you volunteered for it. And most of the things that happen to us, realistically speaking, is because we volunteer. And we don't know what we're doing. On March 21st, 2001, Singleton was convicted of felony unaliving and aggravated assault. He was sentenced to life with parole, which at the time required a minimum sentence of 14 years before being considered by the parole board, and 20 years for the assault, which could be served concurrently, meaning they would run together. Adding a twist to the case is the fact that the gun used to commit the crime was a Fulton County Sheriff's weapon. On June 30th, one day before the homicide, an officer reported a missing gun, stating he had been robbed while at an apartment complex in Clayton County. The gun was in his backpack. A week after the Fulton County case was finished, Clayton prosecutors filed armed robbery charges against Singleton, who had given the gun to Waters. While Singleton maintains that he found the gun, he was convicted that July and sentenced to life in the Clayton case. This man couldn't stand a chance. New attorney, new chance. Attorney H, who began reviewing the case files in January, was initially reticent to accept McBurney's request to take Singleton's case. A former Michigan judge who moved to Georgia to be closer to his grandchildren, Attorney H was busy with other legal work. At face value, his task is simple. Review the transcripts and assess whether Singleton got a fair trial in 2001. In actuality, it is daunting. Quote, "It's almost difficult to present our case if not almost impossible, Attorney H said, unquote. One notable black hole surrounds Singleton's trial attorney, Gertrude. Gertrude was a trial attorney for Michael Lewis, a teenager sentenced as an adult back in 1997. An AJC article on Lewis released in November reported that his co-counsel subsequently testified that Gertrude had provided ineffective counsel. Further research into Gertrude reveals a series of questionable choices by the attorney. In 2006 and 2009, his license was suspended by the Georgia Supreme Court. The files are so old that court officials could not say with certainty what prompted the suspicions. A court spokesperson said in one of the cases, it looks like it was because he did not properly respond to an investigation into a complaint. In 2010, the court publicly reprimanded him as a response to complaints by 3 indigent clients during his time at the Metro Conflict Defender Office. This record, coupled with questions Attorney H has now about the way his client was represented, is the basis for one of the attorney's claims in his new motion of ineffective counsel. But there is a snag. Gertrude passed in 2014. The norm is you can't accuse somebody of being an ineffective lawyer unless you can call that person as a witness. And that's all in quotations. Attorney H said, quote, give them an opportunity to respond to your allegations, unquote. These gaps make it difficult for Attorney H to accurately assess the decisions Gertrude made and whether they were in Singleton's best interest. Because Attorney H doesn't have access to Gertrude or his trial notes, Attorney H doesn't know whether Singleton had been offered a plea deal, as his co-defendants were. Fulton County could not answer this question for him, he said. Silver-haired, with a trim mustache, Attorney H is particularly struck by his client's age at the time of the 2001 trial. In the 2 decades since Singleton was tried, the U.S. Supreme Court has made significant rulings on the sentencing of children. Not that they have diminished culpability, as their brains are not yet fully formed, and they are more prone to peer pressure and reckless behavior without thought of consequences. I wonder why these people aren't taking any of that into consideration in the Young Thug trial when they're going back 13, 14 years on these children when they were children. I just wonder. These developments created a complicated issue for Attorney H. He is tasked with assessing a trial that happened 2 decades ago, but with the frame of mind of a person living in 2024 and aware of these changes. Anatomy of a delay. While Attorney Hoot's main focus is to seek a new trial, it's hard for him to not be curious about how his clients slipped through the cracks. The docket recently uploaded to Fulton County's online system reveals a few clues. Three weeks after the trial on April 17, 2001, Paul Greenberg, an assigned appellate attorney, filed a boilerplate, 1-page motion for a new trial. While this is common as attorneys aim to make the 30-day post-sentence deadline, they usually file an amended motion tailored to the case once they review the transcripts. For Singleton, this never happened, and the court failed to schedule a hearing. In May 2001, 1 month after the trial, transcripts were filed. The next and last apparent activity in the case occurred in August 2005. The prosecutor's office wrote a letter noting that it had been 4 years and the case had not moved forward. They suggested a new attorney be placed on the case. Perhaps this could have been a turning point for Singleton. But a week later, Greenberg filed a response saying he would stick with the case and didn't want to amend his original motion. He said he was prepared to argue the case as soon as the court scheduled a hearing. A hearing was never set. Over the years, the court docket shows Singleton sent various letters to the court requesting documents and transcripts. But until the letter from Singleton hit McBurney's desk in July, the case went dormant for 2 decades as Singleton waited in prison. In reviewing the sequence of events, Robertson, the Case Western Reserve University law professor, told the AJC she sees a system-wide failure. The appellate attorney failed to pursue the case with reasonable diligence, and the judge had a responsibility to keep the docket moving. The prosecutor's office, possibly the least to blame, had a duty to pursue justice and stay on top of the case as representatives of the state. And while Robertson says Singleton's case is unique due to the sheer number of oversights and dropped balls, she contends it is important not to write off the case as an anomaly. Quote, each of the points of failure by themselves are super common, unquote, she said. The office of Fulton County Court Administrator did not respond to questions about the delay. Judge Downs, who retired in 2018, said she could not comment on an old and pending case. And Greenberg had few answers. Quote, it sounds like some attorney down the line dropped the ball, and he's entitled to an appeal, unquote. The former attorney said, there is no evidence that the case was ever assigned to a different attorney. When asked whether that attorney would have been him, he said he didn't believe so. But he also said he couldn't remember anything from so long ago. Now here's an attorney who was the only attorney on the case who said that he don't believe he's the one who dropped the ball, and he can't recall anything. And then they have these young men who were, number one, deemed special ed, number two, using all kind of manner of drugs, and they want them to recall things from 11, 12, 13 years ago without letting them see their interrogation videos to refresh their memories, as they allowed the officers to see the videos to refresh theirs. Tell me, where is the justice in that? Just, I'd like to know. Quote, I feel bad if he didn't get an appeal if he was entitled, unquote, he said. Court set new rules. When speaking about the case, McBurney contends Singleton's case is an unusual scenario, and the problems it highlights are not widespread. Quote, I talked to my colleagues, and no one else has something like this that's this old, unquote, the judge said, pointing out that in recent years rules were passed to address such issues. In 2018, after hearing an appeal from 1997, the Georgia Supreme Court issued a strongly worded opinion on the state's backlog of post-conviction cases. The following January, the court issued new rules to try to curb the problem. So they've known that this has been an ongoing problem, and they've even tried to fix the problem. But then it comes back to management in these offices and what these people are doing, other than, to me, pillaging and laundering money. I don't see anything else that they're doing but dragging on these long fictitious cases so that they can use up all of the funds by going to the commissioners, asking for specific funds for specific reasons, and once they are given the funds, decide that they need to use them for something other than what they were given to them for. And with no checks and balances on their budgets, they've been allowed to just drag these long, big, huge RICO cases out, just really hurting the people of Atlanta. I've understood, and I don't know how true it is, but it has been said that these two cases alone, Young Thug and the one with Donald Trump and his co-defendants, have all but cost them so far in excess of $47 million. Okay, that's a lot. Trial courts now must schedule status conferences regarding motions for a new trial within 120 days of sentencing. Well, we know that they must indict people within 45 days of being arrested, but some people have there for over 2 years, up to 5 years, some 10, and never been indicted. So good luck with that. Local superior courts must also submit biannual logs of all pending motions for new trials or cases awaiting transmission or an appeal. A review by the AJC, however, raises questions about the impact of such a rule. My thoughts exactly. According to the winter 2024 report supplied to the court by Fulton County Superior Court, there are over 350 cases on the county's list. Of those, roughly 20% are from cases that started a decade or more ago. And Judge Glanville is the chief judge, but he'd rather spend his time in here abusing his authority in the Young Thug trial, participating with the DA, becoming a team member, violating every oath that he's ever taken for the Army as well as a judge, violating these individuals' 5th, 6th, 8th, and 14th Amendments, and then taking the First Amendment and using their words against them creatively. And of course, the people don't truly understand what's going on, because every time the DA is before a camera, she's telling them she's always trying to get more money to help secure the people's safety. Yet she, in her office, in her power, in her position, got rid of the office that was set aside with funds to help curtail gang violence and becoming gang members, should have given opportunities and alternatives for kids to do something different. The internship, that the money, the $488,000 that she squandered, or we don't know what happened to that money, part of it, some of it, was used on the intern program, from what I understand, and the junior DA intern program, and they brought in people from all over the globe, well, I would say the states, that were of a different status than the children that it was set aside for. So these are problems, everyday problems, that everyday people don't have a clue about, because we're so busy just trying to make ends meet and to make sure that our households are in order the best that we can. I just want to check in. Hi, Kelly G. Glad you're here. Exactly, Kelly. Court. Okay, Regina, thank you for that. I appreciate you. But you're so right, Kelly. And you know, all of the guys said that they couldn't remember back that far. And again, given the conditions in which they were living and the drugs that they were taking, it stands to reason. But here these people were supposed to be law-abiding and actually protecting the law and the people and representing people, but they can't remember. And it's okay. It's really sad. Okay. The state Supreme Court's website notes that the Fulton list is a preliminary submission subject to future revision. And that's quote unquote. Fulton County Superior Court did not respond when the AJC sent questions to fact check the data. Compounding issues of accuracy, Singleton is not found on the list, which raises questions about the efficacy of the Supreme Court's reforms. The absence of his name also underscores the possibility that there could be others waiting in judicial limbo. Could you imagine this happening more to one person, and especially if the one person was your loved one or you? I shudder to think. Defense attorneys and advocates scored this fear. Advocates second this fear and believed it highlights the necessity of post-conviction reviews. The procedures are meant to guarantee a second set of eyes, said Andrew Fleischman, a Georgia trial and appellate lawyer. They are a fact check, an acknowledgement that systems are made up of people and people can make mistakes. And that's what we all have to remind ourselves. We only say that when it comes to a situation that affects us mostly. And people don't want to realize that we're all human, so we all make mistakes, right? Everybody says we're imperfect, so that goes for everybody. Okay. Quote, even if you don't win the appeal, it's important to at least give your clients the sense that, hey, someone beyond the trial took a look at this, Fleischman said. What happens next? On April 29th, Hort submitted his 39-page motion for a new trial. It was 38 pages longer than the boilerplate motion Greenberg filed in April 2001 and doubled down on in 2005. The Fulton County District Attorney's Office responded on June 17th. They maintained Singleton received a fair trial and sentence. Now, how can they maintain that when nobody can find anything and this has been 20 years? And they've had a changing of the guards. How can they maintain that? That is so asinine to me. A hearing has been scheduled for Monday, at which point McBurney will hear evidence from both sides and will have to determine whether Singleton, 23 years later, deserves a new trial. I hope he does the right thing and give him a new trial, just in the strength that in order for you to be fair, in my opinion, you got to give weight to what he's saying as opposed to what they've done, because they already seen the attorney that he had and the disciplinary actions that were against him. But for he's no longer here, he can't be called to question So I think to err should be on the side of caution and not just their buddies, in my opinion. I could be wrong. Kelly says, Woody saying he was in special ed classes and doesn't understand certain words should mean something as well. It's not a fair trial. That's so very true, Kelly, but these people don't seem to care. Because DK was in special ed classes. And I really believe these guys are telling the truth. That's one of the things. I know a lot of people do not like Dr. Umar, but that's one of the things that he tells us about. Tells us about. And I think people should understand that this is very, 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 very serious. And it's amazing to me how they say things are so serious on one side, but as it applies to us as a people, the masses, the little ones, the ones that nobody care about, it doesn't really mean that when it comes to you. But it does. It means all of that. All of that. Okay. So let me see where I was. I got so excited. Let me see. We got the hearing has been scheduled. If the judge denies the motion for a new trial, court can appeal ultimately to the Georgia Supreme Court, whose decision would close the loop on this 2-decade question mark and could open the door for the actual appellate process. Quote, even if what the Supreme Court ultimately says is the conviction was a solid conviction, that sentence is valid, unquote. Even if it is an affirmation of what happened in the trial court 20 years ago, no one should have to wait that long to get the answer, unquote, McBurney said. In anticipation of this development, court had Singleton's older sister, Monique Davis, send letters to the victim's family. Quote, we wanted to let the family know that the amended motion for a new trial is not to excuse or minimize Sergeant Wrigley's untimely unaliving, said Hort, who explained Singleton couldn't write the letters himself because defenders are not supposed to have contact with victims' family members. The letters aimed to ensure family members weren't surprised by a hearing that was supposed to have occurred 2 decades ago. The AJC reached out to Wrigley's family members but did not hear back. For Singleton, this moment is met with conflicting feelings. His case might have been stagnant, but he and others who've worked with him over the years say he has grown and matured. Quote, he's a totally different person, unquote, said Shirley Brady, Singleton's GED instructor with Georgia Department of Corrections. She met him during his early days of incarceration and has stuck around as a second mother figure. Quote, I immediately gravitated to him because I saw something good in him, unquote, she said, explaining that when they met, she saw a misguided and unnurtured kid who, quote, wanted to be better, but he didn't know how to be better, unquote. Miraculously, despite incarceration, Singleton found that path. He has taken on various leadership positions while in prison, earned his GED, completed numerous work courses, and self-published an ebook on positive thinking. According to notes that accompanied his psychiatric exam this spring, the reviewer examined his prison disciplinary records. through December and noted that the last sustained violation against him was in 2014. That's 10 years ago. Quote, Mr. Singleton had shown considerable rehabilitation, remorse, and regret for his association with the incident, unquote. The psychiatrist who performed the exam wrote. Writing via his girlfriend, Paris Adamson, to whom an AJC reporter sent questions, Singleton explained he felt relieved that he was finally getting the opportunity to have his case reviewed. He also expressed fear, given his previous negative experiences with the criminal justice system, that the outcome would be more of the same roadblocks. I was still kind of skeptical as to what is really going on, he wrote, pointing out that in addition to having his motion lost for 2 decades, he has been denied parole twice since becoming eligible in 2015. Steve Hayes, a spokesperson for the Georgia State Board of Pardons and Paroles, said he could not comment on the specifics of Singleton's case. He said parole was denied in 2015 and 2022 because the board decided Singleton's release, quote, would not be in the best interest of public safety, also citing an insufficient amount of time served due to the severe nature and circumstances of the crime, unquote. Singleton is next up for consideration in 2027. You know, and in Texas, they always use the nature of the crime. Those type things are never going to change, regardless. They're going to always remain the same. The scoring system is something they just found to use for them to be able to do what they should not be able to do, and it's imposed longer time on the individuals. You know, sentences are set. They're not supposed to be set for life, but for some people they become life sentences because they never approved their parole. And again, the nature of the crime is never going to change. It's going to always be the same. But if the individual shows the maturity and the change, then that should be good enough. But of course, if you're probably the victim of a crime, you may not have that feeling. But I've seen a lot of victims of crimes offer forgiveness before the people even ask. So somewhere this has got to be other than the victims that's causing these people to spend these exorbitant amounts of time behind bars when they really could possibly be back in society helping other children not go. Not necessarily that they're going to be working with children, because I found a lot of inmates say that they want to work with children, but that's just something to say until they get free. I found a lot of them are not doing anything to curtail anyone from going to, such a place. But some people are. This circumstance means he has put more weight on the trial and appellate system to get another opportunity to come home. And while he maintains a healthy dose of doubt after the court system lost track of him, he is also aware there's one big difference this time. His attorney, Hart, or King David, as Singleton has christened him. King David, and I'm going to say quote, is what I call him inside, because he moves like a real upright character out of the Bible, unquote. Singleton wrote explaining that Hart has shown diligence and great communication since being assigned to the case last winter. The attorney has even offered to help review the Clayton case. Quote, I've never had a lawyer as dedicated and welcoming as King David, unquote, Singleton said. It's a turn that underscores one of the biggest ironies of Singleton's situation. The length of time he has waited has escalated, has his case to such a red alarm level that he now has the benefit of a judge hand selecting an attorney to take on his case, and a lawyer who has the time and additional help to review the original trial transcript with a fine-tooth comb. Singleton, aware of his shift in circumstances, expresses gratitude. He also acknowledged how this change shows the seeming randomness of the justice system, which is still human and fallible in all the ways his case has highlighted. I think, and this is a quote, about how many more kids are in similar situations, unquote, he told the psychiatrist this spring. When he was asked how he'd feel should he get the opportunity to come home, quote, "It won't be a big celebration for me," unquote, he said. The same system is happening. And he said that in quotation marks. And that's Mr. Singleton's story. What do you guys think about that? Because it's so sad, but he's so true. That same system is happening today. When I tell y'all that this story about what's happening with Glanville and Fonnie, and that these things have happened before. He's recused himself before, so he knows that he's wrong, but he thinks he can use language and finagle his way out of it. And we have different people reporting on this story, and you know, I guess you report on a story the way you report on a story, but I don't know if we're reporting on the story for sensationalism or if we're reporting on the story for the reasons I report on the story, and that is to make aware of the people that you need to start learning these things for yourself. You don't have to memorize them, but you need to just start reading, because you know, nothing can come to your remembrance if it's never been put in your mind. And you don't have to memorize anything, but you should learn how to look up certain things that you're looking for. You don't have to memorize it, but you should know how to go and find whatever it is you're looking for. A lot of people play on words, and they play on words not realizing that lawyers have seminars that they attend annually to play on words. They have semantic seminars. So if you're not aware of that, you're saying one word, they're saying another word, but really they're saying to change the whole dynamic of what you all are talking about. Because I seen one fellow who was saying that one person lied and the other one person lied, when in all honesty, if you look at the totality of what's going on, none of that is true. Everything that was written was really true. And they choose words for a purpose, because words are very important. And they really do have meaning. And if you don't understand that, you could be casting a spell over your own life, and you think that you're really saying something or doing something cute or hurting someone else. When in all honesty, you're hurting yourself. just by the very words that you speak, because it is written, the power of life and death are in the tongue. That's true. And there's so much going on in Atlanta. I don't know, it's been all over YouTube. And I started to cover the story the other day. I'd be saying I'm going to make little small videos, but I don't. But I seen where this judge was arrested and mistreated. And from what she says, we can't really see with the body cam footage. Everything is going so crazy. But from what she says, she was stepping in to help a woman she didn't even know. The way the tapes look is kind of questionable of what's going on. But I think the thing that got me the most is not so much what happened to her on that night. What got me the most is the position she found herself in. Kind of like her sister in crime, as Fonnie called these people. She called the sheriff her partner in crime, which I thought was crazy. Can we please go back over Singleton's sentencing for his convictions? My recollection, 14 years for felony M, years for theft of a sheriff's weapon, which was used, planning and giving supplies, equal 22 years. I think the way they did it, but yes, we can go back over it, Regina. Give me a moment. And let me pull it back up. Give me a moment. I'm looking for the part of the sentence. So that's why you're not hearing anything. Okay, let me see here. I see tried as an adult, but I don't see the charges, and so maybe I didn't go up. Okay, I didn't go up far enough. Here it is up here. Okay, I found it. Well, it won't let me highlight it. I was going to try to highlight it for you. But there it starts. On March 21st, 2001, Singleton was convicted of felony unaliving and aggravated assault. He was sentenced to life with parole, which at the time required a minimum sentence of 14 years before being considered by the parole board, and 20 years for the assault, which could be served concurrently. So actually, you could look at that if you wanted to look at that as 20 years total, because that 14 years is being eaten up by the 20 years. And so, and then you have 6 off of the 14 of the 20, and I don't know how they look at that. But 14 years is equivalent for both. So that within itself cuts the time down. But here's an added twist to the case, is the fact that the gun used to commit the crime was a Fulton County Sheriff's weapon. So, on June 30th, one day before the homicide, an officer reported a missing weapon, stating he had been robbed while at an apartment complex in Clayton County. The weapon was in his backpack. A week after the Fulton County case was finished, Clayton's prosecutors filed armed robbery. So then they hit him as he was the one who took the weapon. And how they come up with armed robbery, I'll never know, because the officer didn't say that anyone actually robbed him. He just said it was missing. So I don't know how they came up with that, but Clayton prosecutors filed armed robbery charges against Singleton, who had given the weapon to Waters. So, does that help, Regina? Oh, okay. Well, that's good, because I didn't see where I could highlight it for y'all. But so they added aggravated robbery. And if the law is the same in their state like it is in my state, and I think most states, all of the sentences are predicated on the legislature that was in effect at the time of the crime. And like it used to be, I don't know if you can today, but it used to be you could go to the Board of Pardons and Parole here in the state of Texas and find the eligibility calendar. And it used to be a calendar that dates back all the way back to I don't know how far back, but it would give you each legislative session and what laws were in effect for what criminal offense that was committed. So I don't know if it's still like that, and I'll look that up one day and see if it still is. And if so, possibly I'll share it and show what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's go with a few more questions. Are they rhetorical questions or questions that we can actually answer here, possibly from what we've learned of the situation? I want to look at something else here that I had for thoughts for you guys. It was the young lady that everybody is talking about. I had an article about her the other day that like I said, I started to do, but I didn't. My mind tells me I'm going to do a lot of things, but my body tells me, no, you're not. And so people say, oh, you should be, and I wish you are. But I should be who I am and do what I do the best that I can. I'm just grateful to be able to do anything. And that is truly an honor for me to be able to do anything. Generally, it does in most states. And again, I'm not an attorney. I don't give legal advice, but I do read, and I read a lot of law, and so I can repeat my knowledge of what I read. Greetings, Asatar. Good to see you. But here's the thing. With aggravated assault, what you do normally is, see, and I don't even understand how they came up with that charge, but it just said that his gun was stolen out of a backpack, so I don't know how they came up with ag assault. But what ag assault does is, when you commit an unaliving, that ends the story for the person that's unalived. But when you commit an aggravated assault, what happens is you leave that person living in a life of fear of what could have happened, what might have happened, and what can happen. So you interfere and interrupt their entire lives. And that's why it carries more punishment. Whether it makes sense to people or not, doesn't matter. But it makes a whole lot of sense, to be real honest. Because that person is forever living in fear of something or everything. The article makes it seem as though Singleton has never ridden to court and depended solely on the justice system and his lawyers. You think so? I don't think so. They said he continued to write. But what happened is that they didn't do anything. They didn't respond. You know, I'm going to tell you, you just have to be consistent. And you can write. Let me just tell you how crazy it is. If you have an attorney, you can't write directly to the court if you have an attorney, because the attorney has jurisdiction over you. That's why jurisdiction is very important for us to learn. And again, remember, there is personam jurisdiction, territorial jurisdiction, subject matter jurisdiction. And we need to understand what they mean. And then we have to understand that we only exist in a court system on paper. And the court is not allowed to speak to a human being. That's why you have to have a representative to represent you. Or you can come pro se. Now, pro se is a little different than persona. Because pro se, you're still under their jurisdiction. But you get to speak for yourself. The thing of it is, if you come that way, you better know the law like they do, because that's what they're going to hold you to, the letter of the law. Now, most of the time, you're being actually in court under the color of law. And when they want to, they'll make that distinction to let you know. And if you don't know what color of law is, which of course, looking at Toothless Tiger, we know what color of law is, then you may be deceived. Yeah, that is so true. But remember, the first lawyer with the ineffective counsel, that lawyer is no longer with us. And this lawyer, the appellate lawyer that he had before, is the one who said it's a shame that if he didn't get an appeal, he should have got. He's the one that really dropped the ball from what the article is saying. And they asked him, what if he's the one? He's the one who said that he doesn't recall. But they said the records show he was never appointed another attorney outside of him. And see, what he did was, when he filed that boilerplate motion, he filed that to meet the deadline, which is what he should have done. We had a situation like that in Phyllis's case, where she missed the deadline of an appeal by 1 day. And that's why you got to know those dates. You've got to know those calendar dates. And they have court calculators, thank goodness, on the web so that you can calculate the dates timely, because she missed it by 1 day from counting as we count. But what was overlooked was the month of August had 31 days. So it wasn't day for day. That put us off a day. And so when she thought she was 30 days from the 17th of August to the 17th of September, unfortunately, that was not 30 days. That was 31 days, according to the court's calendar. And she was off by 1 day. Which was very, very unfortunate. It was unfortunate, but it could have been fortunate. Sometimes things happen, and it's written that all things work together for your good, but a lot of things you can't see is working together for your good, and it sure don't feel good. But it's really, sometimes things do work out for your good, because it gives you time that you did not have, and you would not have in any other situation. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, all he was asking for was, we did the exact same thing when you go to court and the court says, oh, well, they don't have jurisdiction, which is what happened in my last case. They said they didn't have jurisdiction, which they didn't. I have jurisdiction in my case, and they didn't in her case. But that court could have remanded it back to where it should have gone, but they didn't. They just said, no jurisdiction, case dismissed. And that gave her the opportunity to be able to do what she was able to do, and that was to go back to workers' comp. We just didn't know how to get there. And I just kept researching and researching and researching and researching and researching and found a way. That is so very true. A lot of things are not. But one thing we know about this criminal justice, injustice, whatever you choose to call it, it is written for us to know if we seek the knowledge. Now, they have language, and that's why it's very important for you to look up every word in a motion, in an indictment, in a pleading, in whatever. You need to look those words up. It's vitally important to know what they're saying, because there are things called legalese. That's a special language that is written for the people that practice law. And you could think you're saying one thing when totally you're saying another. Also, you need to also go back to the 8 parts of speech and punctuation. You need to understand grammar and learn what punctuations mean in a court document, because they have meaning. And if you don't know that, your concept could be wrong. And that happened to me. So it's not like it can't happen to people. It's nothing to be ashamed of. The thing to be ashamed is if you have an issue and you don't fight for your right. No matter the outcome, you just put in the work. Because we're not going to win them all. And it ain't because we did something bad or we did something wrong or we're being punished. It's just that we didn't win that one. But it should prepare you. The lessons that you learn from it should help you be prepared in the event you meet that monster again. Then you know how to fight it. I would definitely love to go over that video. What Posted is breaking down this man's case. The man broke it down very well, but I like the way that he comments on it. I like his commentary. It's so very good. But these people, and I'm not worried about him, but these people so keep flagging. And it's not good when you can't really hear and understand what the people are saying cohesively, because it needs to flow, you know. It is so many that's been fighting and still fighting. And you got to keep on fighting. I've been fighting all my life. All my adult life. I fight every day. In some capacity. Helping somebody. We're the ones people know nothing about. We don't have the names and the fame and the glory. But the people that we help, we get the satisfaction of knowing that they were willing to do their part and we did what we could, and it turned out however it turned out, much of the time in their favor. And that's because they put in the work. It's work, not lip service. You got to read, and then you got to write. You got to write in a manner. You don't have to be a scholar or a professor, but you got to write in a manner that they require and respect. Because when you're dealing with legal documents and things of that nature, you can't just arbitrarily say what you want to say, and as long as you want to say it, or short. They have requirements. They have font requirements, space requirements, and word requirements, pages requirements. And if you don't meet those criteria, chances are great your document is going to be overlooked or not heard or read or seen anyway. So a lot of things are put into place to discourage the everyday person for standing up for themselves. But you can't let that discourage you. You just got to feel the fear and do it anyway. That's what I've done most of my life. When I first started standing for what I believe to be right, I had no concept of the fifth, the fourth, the first, the second, the third, the sixth, the seventh, the eighth, the ninth, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th Amendment. I didn't have those concepts. Not that I hadn't heard them mentioned when I was in school, but when I started having to fight, I was out of school and an adult just trying to live life and go to work and was being mistreated. And I just started researching and reading. You know, that's when you learn about you may not know the law of contracts, but you learn everything is contractual in this place we call the United States. And then you learn about unionized states and non-union states. And then you learn the law that most people work and live in an at-will state, where you think you really have rights. Policies and procedures of companies overrule the majority of your rights. There are some rights, of course, they can't take away, but they can maneuver your rights within their policy and procedure. And it's really, really, really discouraging. It's disheartening, painstaking, but it's things that have to be done. So even though we have a lot of jokes about lawyers or liars and all of this good stuff, those lawyers that do what they do, and you have to have money for them to do, not because they're greedy, but because of the work. Hours upon hours upon hours upon hours, if they want to win. If you just want somebody in there to show up and just speak and just say whatever, a lot of people don't understand that the courtroom is considered a bank. And the judge is the tailor. I should say the teller, not tailor. We're not making suits. He's the teller. He's collecting the funds. Most people are unaware that you have to put up a bond if you're an attorney in a case. So somebody is going to win and somebody is going to lose. That's why they have all those pretrial hearings and those evidentiary hearings. They have all of those. That's why you have to share with each other what you're going to do. You got to lay everything all out, and then the best strategist and storyteller will win. But you got to know what you're up against. There are no surprises in the courtroom. And when there are surprises, like on Perry Mason, all of that is theater. When there are surprises in the courtroom, then that means there is prosecutorial misconduct or defense attorney misconduct. That's why they have all of these rules that they quote and laws that they quote to let you know what has set precedents. Regina said, the land of law does not care about feelings. However, it does matter in how the law is represented on your behalf. That is so very true. Yeah, law feels nothing. It is what it is. But the way that you tell the story in the law can very much be your saving grace. Could very much be your saving grace. I want to look at something right quick. Give me a moment. That's that. I want to see. I think It's the same thing. It is. I was looking for a particular document. Let me look one other place. I know I did that article. It was about this young lady that just got arrested. The judge. She was already in some trouble. I think she has some felony charges. And I was trying to see where I sent it to myself. She has some felony charges, unfortunately. I just saw something. One second. Okay, here it is. Okay. Okay, Regina says, how you tell Okay, Regina says, how you tell the story falls under representation. There are many ways to represent on your behalf. Exactly. And when you're doing it, you call it presenting yourself. When you're doing it yourself. Now, in regards to Young Thug trial, we have had the opportunity to observe it live. In my opinion, this is a wonderful opportunity to let people see a real courtroom and all the people involved in a case. That is, and that's my opinion as well. And what I try to get people to understand that this is how we've been railroaded our entire lives. This is showing us how that really works. Whether we believe it or the things these people are doing are just unbelievable. But it really is what happens in a courtroom. There is no justice in the courtroom, but there really is. And like I said, if you don't have the wherewithal to fight for yourself or the means to hire someone to fight in the manner in which these people are fighting for these men, then that's how you get caught up like Mr. Singleton and lost in translation. 20 years. And these people are out here racking up RICO cases and talking about charging an ex-president when they have this in their system that they should be attending to, because as this young man said, this happened to him, but imagine how many other people this could happen to. As I've shared, my sister has been fighting for 6.5 years for the right to be heard in court. For the right to be heard in court on a workers' comp case that was denied her benefits. She was assaulted physically. They didn't care about her emotional, mental impact, her physical disability. It meant nothing to nobody but my sister. And what I shared with my sister, if you're willing to fight for yourself, I'm willing to research and help you fight. And I want y'all to know, it takes hours upon hours upon hours upon hours to fight. These men earn their money. And what's so beautiful about the men and women that earn their money, they do it because of the love of the Constitution and what it stands for. Freedom and justice for all. Kelly, yes, we'll never stop fighting. As long as I have breath in my body and can read, and as long as she can read, comprehend, and tell her story. And one thing about us, we are, and sometimes I feel like I'm losing it, but we are excellent speakers. We are truly my daddy's children. And he didn't even have a high school or junior high education. But he was an excellent speaker. And we did get to go to high school and stuff. But this is something that I'm going to share. One moment, please. Okay, Kelly said, I hate that these lawyers are stuck on just this one case. I am sure it impacts their income and household in some way. Those guys are in jail and cannot afford these fees. Tell the truth, Kelly. That's so very true. And they can't work on any other cases but these cases because, one of the things that they take an oath to is to ensure that you get a fair and impartial trial and that they do everything they can to defend you to the point of not guilty. That's what they seek. Does not mean that's always what they're going to get, but that's what they seek. One moment. Yeah, and the saddest part about it is that, these men have to actually spend all of their time. And as Ashley Merchant was saying, when, the judge totally messed up and, arrested Mr. Steele and he was going to have to go to jail, there is no way that he could actually prep for what he needs to prep for in a jail cell. Because one thing they have access to that we don't have is Westlaw. And that, to me, ought to be against the law, according to the Constitution. Because we should have access to everything they have access to. We have a lot of statutes, a lot of case law online, but there are even some statutes that we don't get to see all of the sections of that statute because they tell you have to go to Westlaw to actually read the rest of it. And where that is most important is in the area that we all should be studying more than anything in life, and that's trust law and estate law. Those are two arms of the law that we know nothing about because we feel we don't have anything, but we all have a life estate. And we don't understand estate. So if you would look in the dictionary, the law dictionary, you could get a better comprehension of what it is. But, oftentimes I like to just share with people life experiences. Because we all have them. And we have a lot of life experiences that has changed our lives just entering in the world of YouTube. Not really knowing what to expect, thinking, hoping, believing all things that people are good and, you're going to work together and you're going to thrive, and you come to know that that's not it. It's really a business, but it's a shady business. YouTube is YouTube, but the people that are playing this game on YouTube, they're not playing fair. And you don't realize that when you come all wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and thinking that you're gonna meet people and y'all gonna collaborate and you're gonna win the people over by storm. And you could do all of that, but you're not going to collaborate because a lot of people are envious and you don't realize that it's about money. So once you get monetized, you're working toward getting monetized, but you don't realize that's when you become the worst enemy of people that are monetized already, is because now their people have the opportunity to give to you as if they couldn't have been given to you all along. But now they can do the super chats and They can do things that people can see. And then for some reason, some of these content creators feels it takes away from them. Regina said, most do not know about estate and trust law because most believe they do not have it. And it's for people that are well off and are rich. That's true, but they don't understand that they do have it. No matter if you live in your riches today or not, because you know not that you have it, but you have what you have. And it eliminates a lot of problems when the transition comes for you as an individual. A lot of us don't even want to speak on transitioning, especially like our parents. But a lot of parents are baby boomers, such as myself, and older. And these are things that need to be discussed. But we as a people are so afraid to talk about, because we think even to utter the words that it may cause something to happen. But it's going to happen regardless, because life is a cycle. And that's what happens in the cycle of life, a beginning and then an end. But I listen to a lot of different people on YouTube. I hear a lot of different opinions of things. Some I agree with, some I don't. Some are funny, some are not. But I can empathize more having to fight my whole life on public jobs. For whatever the reason that I had to fight on public jobs. Oftentimes the fight was between people that looked just like me, and they usurped their power. Just like, these people down there in Atlanta. It is actually literally a culture of corruption. And I like what L.A. Pink says. These are political gangbangers. What we call black on black crime. But nobody seems to care. It's more than one way to inflict pain and harm upon each other. And we see it happening in that courtroom. We see this judge refusing to obey the law, refusing to recuse himself. And he knows the process takes so long that he keeps saying, you can take it up on appeal. But for them to take it up on appeal is the assumption that they've already lost. You have to lose in order to appeal something. One of you have to lose. You got to have a winner. That person certainly don't want an appeal. But that person that you're opposing who lost, they're definitely going to want an appeal. Like I said, my sister's been fighting for 6.5 years for an injury, several injuries she sustained while doing her job in a school system. And I don't know about all school systems, but a lot of them seem to be the same. If you think that they're going to stand for you when things get rough, you might want to rethink that. Everybody wants to make sure that you're not a liability to them. But living is a liability as well as an asset. That's what life is all about. Risk, chances. She had no way of knowing that a 14-year-old boy would come and yank her lanyard and throw her to the floor and tear her rotative cuff. She had no way of knowing that was going to happen. And he did that on the strength of the actions of someone else. Someone else took his cell phone and locked it up in the office and went home for the day. She was doing her job. That wasn't her job. That wasn't what she did to him. But he saw those keys around her neck, and he said he was going to get his phone one way or the other. That happened to her. And then they have these things called political subdivisions. And these political subdivisions are self-insured. A lot of companies are doing that now. And some companies follow the guidelines of the state in which they're in, workers' comp rules, and some have the insurance that they don't have to. They have their own rules. And those are the most dangerous ones. A lot of people think they go to work, they're safe in an environment, and that nothing will happen to them. And if something does, their company would definitely stand behind them. Regina said, I have heard very disturbing information and misleading information here on YouTube. It's very dangerous, and some things actually tear down the moral and integrity fibers of people. Research. That's so true, Regina. And that's why I come here and maybe nobody shows up but 3 to 5 people. I'm going to talk to the 3 to 5 people that are interested. And as Regina and Kelly and others that speak in the chat have something to offer to you all that I may not have. I know Kelly has a plethora of knowledge on social behaviors and children and families. That's what she does. She has government training on how to spot certain things. So we all may not be lawyers. Regina, I don't know what she is. She's an angel, in my opinion. She has more knowledge than a walk-in encyclopedia. She reminds me of my brother and my cousin. I call them two of the smartest people I know in the world. They knew more subjects than most of us could even think of. And I mean, they talk about them in depth. Words, oh yeah, they know words. Words we wouldn't use every day. And they would use them as common as it is to man. And when they use them, you would be able to figure out what the word meant in the manner in which they use them. But I just believe the people may not listen today, but one day they'll come to Toothless Page to see what they need to do and what they should have listened to. That may never happen, and that's okay. But I want y'all to know that if you put in the work, I hear a lot of people and a lot of attorneys talk about how hard it is to get an appeal. It is very hard to get an appeal. But once you get an appeal, it is even harder to get a favorable decision. And most attorneys, I'm going to tell you, the way they've gutted workers' compensation with these political subdivisions, a lot of attorneys won't take your case. So if you get stopped at a certain stage of your workers' comp case, you're just out of luck. you're stopped. Regina said, however, let me point out that the above statement is nothing new. This has been happening since the creation of the newspaper. There used to be commercials, news reports, etc. about misinformation. And that is so very true. The saddest thing about that, though, is when a people want to censor a people that speak truth, they deem the truth as misinformation. So unless you research and find out for yourself, you'll never know what's misinformation and what's truth. And in mainstream, everything is put out the same. And we know nothing is the same. No news station should have the exact same verbiage, the exact same story at the exact same time. Life don't happen like that. Things are constantly happening. And there was a time, if you looked at one station, you could turn to another station if you missed that story because it came on a little bit later on another channel. Nowadays, if you missed it on this channel, you missed it on every channel because they're all running everything simultaneously. They're all running them at the same time, as if they're synchronized dancers. So we get synchronized news stories now. And that's unfortunate. But it is written, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Knowledge truly is powerful. When you have the ability to communicate on any level with anyone, especially in their level of expertise, and you can articulate yourself in a manner in which they know that you know what they know, that is a beautiful feeling. And if you've never felt that, then you cannot attest to that. But I guarantee you, all it takes is for one time for you to be in a situation and you don't know what to do, and you research, and then you try it, and you get a different result from what you had been getting all along. It makes a difference. Regina said, thank you, Toothless Tiger. I am always humbled. Please know that I appreciate you as well, and all of your wisdom and knowledge. I am honored to have found you here on YouTube. Thank you, Regina. I'm honored that you came, because we met when I first came on YouTube. So I'm honored that you came back. And I really am truly grateful that I got past the craziness that besought me. I didn't understand it, didn't know why, but it all works together again. It makes for a better person, and it helps me to understand really how this social media thing works. One thing Regina always speak on, and this is so very true because my mentor, who I learned a lot of my scholarship from, says that, you know, people have the right not to research and not to do what we think is right or we know is right. People have the right to be wrong. People have the right to do wrong. I think Paul even said it. All things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. That means that there are consequences to everything you do, so you can do anything. But there is a consequence and a price you're going to have to pay. And what we need to learn as a people, legal and lawful are two different things. Legal and lawful are two different things. You know, at one time it was legal to have slaves. It was never lawful. But it was legal. Now put that in your pipe and smoke it. Or should I say, marinate on that. And then research it. Words are very important. Very, very important. But again, with my sister's case, I learned that case backwards and forward. I know that case in my sleep. Because like I told her, if you're willing, I'm willing. My sister was willing. She just graduated with a Bachelor's of Science degree in education. At 62 years old, I believe she was. Perhaps 63. But she had just graduated. Awfully proud. We were all excited about it. And then this happened. And then her school abandoned her. Totally abandoned her. And then had the most vicious and ferocious individual. And it was sad. Regina say, I am glad you got past the craziness too, because you tried to give me a rough time and tried to help you navigate through the madness of evenness here on social media. Yeah, I did. That's a part of who I am. But I came to my senses. And you know, I talk about things no matter what it is, whenever I want to. I do that in life. But I found the formula that Regina was giving me, and the advice, and the courage, because she encouraged me, gave me the courage to say, bye-bye, no more. It's not worth my time. If you all knew the hours that I spend reading and writing, and advocating for other individuals. It's an all-consuming thing, for real it is. And my sister is forever grateful. How do I know that? Because she learned this case like I did. She didn't understand a whole lot, and we went through a lot. But she knows her case. She started reading, taking notes, going back, rereading, looking up words, having aha moments. And she did everything that was asked of her. Everything. And she did them timely. But this person that she was up against, because he has 35 years of practice in workers' compensation law, teaches a class, abused his knowledge and power to the nth degree. This man even sent my sister an email calling her despicable. He said she was despicable. And if she ever got another hearing, good luck. You lost everything else. I'm sure you'll lose that too. He said that to her. Remind me of a few creatures I ran into in life. But that did not deter her nor me. But we are our mama and daddy's children. And we continued with the fight. You see, if you have a workers' compensation case, especially in the state of Texas, there are 6 stages to that case. And you have to go through every stage in order for a final decision to be made. Regina said, memory lane. When I first came to at Toothless Tiger channel, after hearing her speak on another content creator's channel, as I was enjoying the commentary and engaging in the chat, one mod accused me of, and she's going to finish that. And I know it takes a minute to type because it takes me a minute to type. I want to know if anybody is in the bushes or the trees, if you would consider subscribing if you're not subscribed, becoming a member to my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. But it is through membership and super chats that I ever receive a YouTube check. I don't get too many people watching the videos today, but I know they're coming one day. And I'll be right here doing what I do. And that's spreading the good news of humanity. And letting you know that there is an opportunity to dare to be different. There's truly an opportunity to win. And you don't have to look over your shoulders. You don't have to bow down. Just be yourself. I don't know which one of these pages that he's on the most. I know he has the Black News now. Kelly, if you still here, would you drop that link in here? I don't have it already saved with my links. Let me find Astapul's link. Regina, I'm waiting on you to finish your I'm sure you're typing, but I'm waiting to that pop up. Okay, so someone accused her of being other than Black or Asiatic. Why? Because I typed something in the chat and they said I wrote like a textbook. I knew immediately that that person was a problem. But I'm going to tell you, I believe she's an Asiatic mother a matriarch of such, no matter her age, a scholar of knowledge. And she does not mind, just like the waterfall, sharing. And she shares with us constantly. I wish more of us really understood. Her writing, spot on. I wish I could be as concise and clear. I'm verbose and always have been. My mama used to tell me as a kid, your mouth gonna get you in trouble because you talk too much. But I talk. And I've learned in some situations when and when not to talk. What and what not to say. But for the most part, I wish I had the discipline. In Regina's writing is discipline. You can see it. You can read it. If you have comprehension. It comes with a lot of self-work. A lot of us on these apps are hurting. The majority of us have had some awesome events, but the majority of us have had some awful events that transpired in our lives. For some of us, this is the only place that we get to interact with people. And as adult as we may pretend to be, for some of us, we've never passed the little girl or the little boy stage of life because we're caught up in the ills of our past. Regina said, FY, best believe he had my attention. I had to let him know I am not here for you. I am here for Toothless Tiger. And she has been here ever since. And I appreciate it. Life is happening to us all. Every last one of us. And that's why I can't stop coming on here. Even if it's just me and Regina, me and Maria, me and Soalisha, me and Asifa, me and whomever, me and just Phyllis, me and just me. I can't stop. Because I know that things happen in people's lives and they're doing things. They're taking care of loved ones. They're taking care of themselves. So I don't get caught up when I can't see them in the chat. I miss them. Would love to see them. Remind me of the good old days. But every day is a good day if you choose it to be. But as I walk through this story, and as many times yes, Kelly is going to show up and show out. Whether she stay the whole show or 5 minutes, you're going to know that she was there because she's going to impart something. And she's going to add to the conversation. So I feel like I'm like that little old church on the corner. We may not have too many members in the congregation, but the congregation is going to show up. Whether they stay the whole sermon or not, they're going to give their support. And I'm truly grateful. And the people in the bushes, I'm grateful for you too. Because sometimes I've never seen more than 4 or 5 people in my chat. But when I go off, it shows 40 to 50 people were watching. And that means a lot to me. it means a lot. It would mean even more if, since you don't chat, just go put an emoji in the comments. Because again, what YouTube really looks for today is engagement. They look for engagement. And yes, there are replays. And those numbers that ended up being the 40 and the 60 end up sometimes being 3,000 or 4,000. And that's an awesome feeling. But any view, for me, is an awesome feeling when I came to YouTube with only 3 subscribers. And I have 1575. So that means a lot. But I hear a lot of these people talking, law talking. I'm glad that they know what they know and they talk what they talk. But my sister, like I said, has been fighting for 6.5 years. Lost twice in district court. And the last time in district court, when she filed an appeal, she appealed to the Texas Appeals 3rd District Appellate Court. And honestly, we had no idea what we were doing. I was just reading and writing. My sister knows the order of a paper. She took those notes, those highlighted cases, and she formulated a document. Remember, I told you in law, when you get to these certain courts, they have rules. And they don't mind you representing yourself. You just got to follow the rules, just like those attorneys that are paid $500 and $1,000 an hour, $50 or $150 an hour. But a lot of those that's paid $150 an hour, they're not going to the appellate court. You see, there's an order to this thing. And everybody have their level of expertise. They even have a subject matter that they normally practice in. Some people may practice in 2 or 3 different sciences, but most practice only in one. And they perfect that. So they have actual appellate attorneys. But again, the way they've gutted the workers' compensation system, most attorneys won't take your case because there's really no money in it for them. And it's a lot of work. When I say no money in it for them, what we don't understand is most attorneys are actually self-employed, even if they work at a law firm. And if they're not bringing cases to that law firm, they're not going to have a job long. Most of them pay a percentage of what they make to the firm. And they have to be forever bringing in monies. You know, and a lot of people, laughed and called my sister and I, we just go to court on people. We're just ambulance chasers. No, we just believe in exercising our right. And if you allow a stupid individual to have you believe that if you're violated in any manner, that you should not exercise a right, shame on you. Shame on you. I've had more paperwork that I've written and found in courtrooms on YouTube than I ever imagined. I should have a court show. Regina said there are also mediocre lawyers out here too. More than you can imagine. Tell the truth. Under the guise of being subject matter experts and with accolades out the yin yang. Because this man who's been fighting my sister for 6.5 years, the accolades, they're as long as Interstate 45 from Dallas to Houston. That's 244 miles. He's got them. But all it takes, workers' compensation, yes ma'am. All it takes is a will, a desire, an action. Stick-to-itiveness is your best friend, even when you feel like giving up. And I can say that unequivocally, because many a times I felt like giving up. But I could not give up on my sister. She would not give up on herself. And as long as she was willing, I had to be willing to do what I could. And I want you guys to know this is probably the paperwork you won't hear about. And I'm not going to share the whole case. You can look it up for yourself. You do everything else. I want to show y'all something that any attorney would be proud of. And I'm not an attorney, nor do I practice law. It says, the Texas Court of Appeals, 3rd District at Austin. And there's the number. Phyllis Lee, appellant, versus Grand Prairie Independent School District appellee. From the 21st District Court of Travis County. Number, the Honorable Annie Clark Meacham, Judge presiding. Memorandum. Let's go over here. Phyllis Lee, proceeding pro se, appeals from the District Court's order granting Grand Prairie Independent School District, the school district, plea to the jurisdiction, concluding that it lacked subject matter jurisdiction. The District Court dismissed Lee's suit that sought judicial review of an appeals panel decision of the Texas Department of Insurance Division of Workers' Compensation, the division. For the following reason, and this is the most important part of this document, for the following reasons, we reverse, the District Court's order and remand the case to the District Court for further proceedings. So don't ever give up on yourself listening to stupid people. Don't ever. because that was an awesome feat that she did. I cried like a newborn baby, and I certainly cried like my mama had just left us. Hey, Maria, good to see you. So the lawyer's working for the company, yes. Most definitely the lawyer's working for the company. The company will continue to fight in order to drain the resources of a plaintiff and or stop fighting. That is so very true. They will do that. But see, when you don't have resources to begin with, and all you have is you and your livelihood, then you got to become your own resource. And you got to read. And you got to study. And you got to fight. It ain't no such thing as, I don't know what I'm doing, because I promise you we don't know what we're doing. But that was the appellate court. And we overturned many judges' decisions. That's a hell of a feat. And if Judge Glanville can say we and be separate from the state, certainly I can say we and be separate from my sister. But we're not separate. I just don't represent her. She represents herself. Now, at the Texas Workers' Compensation Division, there is a form with my name on it that she gave them permission for me to assist her. But in a court of law, she can only represent herself. And what I learned, and I already knew this, just because you talk about a case, you're not giving away strategy. You don't give away your strategy and what you need to do and how you do it. But since everybody loved putting up papers and talking about what people did and didn't do, and how they just chase ambulances, and that's what they say about me and my sister. They don't give us the honor that goes with who we are. The integrity, the fight that we've had to fight, that means nothing. We just little nothing. No, I just came to YouTube believing in entrepreneurship, believing in people wanting to build together and work together. Thank you, Maria. Yeah, she did that. And I know attorneys that I know that are amazed and can't even believe that we went that far. We had no idea that the appellate court would choose her case. They get thousands of cases a day. That's what we were told. And we certainly didn't know that they were going to hear her case. And we didn't have oral arguments. They read it. And came to the same conclusion. And reversed the decision. And she's preparing right now to do what she needs to do once she's back in court. You can't ever give up on yourself. No matter what people think of you, no matter how they lie and talk about you, no matter how they laugh at you, don't give up on you. Especially when you know who you are. You see, some things are not done for what people think they're done for. They're done for your satisfaction. When I filed my case of defamation, that was for my satisfaction. I understood diversity of citizenship. What I didn't understand is the damages had to be exactly $75,000. I understood that I got a judgment, the clerk's judgment, but I did not believe the other sections applied to me because of all the other things that did. So, hey, I can misunderstand, and I can stand to lose a few, and I can stand for people to laugh. and make fun means nothing to me, because I'm going to be always found doing what I need to do for me. I didn't come here to harm nobody. I came to help uplift and to help. And most people came to be entertained, so they don't want truth. So be entertained in whatever way you're entertained. I don't have a problem with that. But I learned this YouTube thing is not what it appears to be. Not at all. They even had the audacity to go and put up another case where we were swindled out of our money. 2 senior citizens. And we fought and won. But did that matter that we won the judgment? No, they just call us ambulance chasers. We don't chase ambulances. We don't do that at all. We don't just go to court just to be going to court. We believe in using the redress that you have. And you can't allow anybody to put you in a position where you're going to come out of your dignity and your self-respect and end up costing you more than what it should have. Regina said, I was just trying to tell someone yesterday to know your worth. That's all you got to do. And I'm glad that you shared that with that person, because a lot of us don't know our worth. And we think it's in these people on YouTube that say our name out loud and play like they cut for us. We don't even know those crazy, ridiculous people. But there's some great people out here, and even they have their own issues. Just go for the message. For the message. And if you like the person, support that person. I know my people support me. I just don't have a lot of them. But I receive support every time they show up, every time they hit that like, every time they say something in this chat, every time they leave a comment, every time they give a super chat, every time they give a cash app. That's support. And yeah, I would love to see at least $500 or $600 a month. Boy, that would really help me out. But that don't happen for me. Most months I don't even get a check at all. But who cares? That's not where worth comes from. Worth comes from in you and what you put out into the ethers. And trust me, I had people that come along the way, I didn't even know where they came from, and they started giving financially. And all of a sudden, they disappeared. That's okay. They did what they purposed in their heart to do for me. And that's what I needed. And I am grateful to all of those people and anybody that should come. I'm just going to keep showing up. Sometimes even when I don't feel like it. I just have to show up. I have to share. And sometimes I'll be on the story that everybody is talking about. Sometimes I won't. Because life is real. And it affects us in all areas. Regina said, when a person knows their worth, you're not bothered by what others say negatively about you or what they try to do to you. Knowing your worth means loving yourself and knowing who you are. She's always dropping those type of gems and jewels. And believe it or not, we need to hear that. We all do. Even those of us who know who we are and where we're going and where we came from and where we hope to go. We all need words of encouragement at times, because sometimes life happens and it's hard. And sometimes we feel like we don't even want to go on, but we have to get up and go anyway. Because if we don't do it for ourselves, it won't get done. Maria said, yeah, for you guys' heart and all you guys' hard work. Thank you so much, Maria. You see, that's what I live for. And to make a difference. When somebody says something that I told them, they actually used that and it actually helped them get through a situation. That means the world to me, believe it or not. I'm not a God or a creator of anybody but my son. But my son. But I love imparting the knowledge and wisdom that I've acquired through these 65 years to others. I love being a voice for those who can't speak for themselves, although I couldn't do it on a global level. People are so very, very, very ungrateful, and they won't even try to participate. But if you show me that you're willing, I'll show you that I'm willing to help in whatever capacity that I can help. And it's not much that I can do, but what I can do, trust me, I do, and I do it well. No brags, just facts. Believe it or not, I didn't even think I had anything to say other than that story, and that I would make it to this hour. 3 hours, believe it or not, but we're here. So I'm going to get ready to end the show tonight. I'm so grateful for all who showed up. And Regina, Maria, Phyllis, Kelly, I appreciate you ladies so much. If we as women would understand our work and the power of sisterhood that we possess, we could have changed what's going on in its criminal injustice system, in our neighborhoods, in our schools, in our homes. Sometimes it's overwhelming for us in whatever capacity that we live and have our being. But together, we can make a difference. Whether we do it on the same stage or on different stages of life, it will continue. As Regina said, she was just sharing somebody to know your worth. As Maria served others, as she takes care of individuals in many ways that some will never imagine. As Kelly has impacted so many lives of children, and we know it's in a positive way because we know how she speaks. And we're not talking about her YouTube vernacular. We're talking about who she is as a person, because we understand her vernacular. We really do. Phyllis worked all of her life in banking and then decided to go and help children. And the work she's given to that school system is unmatched. She did something no other human being could do. She took 2 children, 2 young boys. One was nonverbal, totally. The other one could utter something. They suffered from Down syndrome. And she taught them both how to not only say their names, they could write their names. And one of them was nonverbal. But his mother got to hear her baby say his name and speak to her for the first time in his life. He was in Miss Lee's class. So this little stuff these people say means nothing. We literally change lives. We really do. And the things I've done, I did that. And I've done a lot. So no matter how you see me or don't see me, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I am who I say I am. And on that note, I'm going to wish everybody a good night. I'm going to ask you, if you didn't hit the like, hit the like. Share the video if you will. Subscribe. Consider becoming a member and member up. And for any of my members, because I know you guys are so supportive, and I thank you all for the length that you all have been members. If you have a massage envy in your town and you would love to receive the gift that keeps on giving, just send me an email so that we can get that taken care of. I can give away one massage a month. And that's what I do when people let me know. It is here for you. I have to pay for it every month. And I have way too many to give up my subscription. I have way too many. I would just lose them all. And I've spent way too much. So check out the Young Thug trial. Well, they're not going to be doing anything for the next 2 days but listening to videos. Hopefully the Supreme Court will step in on time. If this gentleman want to do anything to Phyllis now, he would have to go to the Supreme Court of Texas. So that's another reason why I didn't know, and I waited to the last minute to decide to come on. Although I had in my mind so many different stories, and I say I'm going to do little videos and just haven't done it, but I've been preparing just in the event that's where he's planning on going. But right now it's been reversed and we got to go back to court so that she can be heard, because she's never been heard. He's been able to finagle the system to keep her from being heard. But thank goodness the appellate court heard what she would say and agreed with her in-law and reversed the last judge's decision, the district court's judge's decision. District court. Look it up. District court. Not kangaroo court. Not YouTube court. But district court. Okay, you know what to do. And you just, need to let me know when. You know what to do. Now is a good time. So you just gotta, find you some time. And, call me and we'll call and, set it up and consider it done. And then we'll work for next month, because it's once a month I can give away one massage. Once a month. And y'all, these are professionals. Look up Massage Envy online. They're throughout the United States. So look them up. And on that night, I said on that night, Lord help. On that note, we're going to get ready to leave the Tiger's Den. Have a beautiful evening. Let me say good night to all. Why the stuff done moved all the way down? Okay, let me do it on my phone, because that's just too much right there. Thank you, Regina. I hope that young man get everything, heard, and he gets an opportunity at a new trial. Those are the kind of things, like I said, L.A. Pink and her people, the grassroots organization, street groomers, Those are the kind of things that they're working on and helping people with. And that's really awesome. And remember, justice for CJ. Justice for More 3. Justice for Leonard. Remember Leonard. I just did a show about him recently. We have so many justices that we want to see for people. It's just unbelievable. And I didn't pull up the article on the judge, but I'm going to do that Wednesday. We'll talk about that and any other new news that may come open, because there's been some news. I'm going to do some little stories. I keep saying I'm going to do it. Just whenever you see it, say, well, she did it. Because don't hold it to me. I'm slow but sure. And I just have to do this because I truly believe the children are our future. And we need to teach them. But if we don't know ourselves, then we can't teach them right. So I'm willing to share what I know. And if you share what you know, maybe we can learn something and help our children. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us who we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my needs. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I failed, if I succeed, at least I'll live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity, because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And if by chance that special place that you've been dreaming of takes you to a lonely place, find yourself in love.